The day I found out I had won $50 million should have been the happiest day of my life. Instead, it was the day my entire marriage died. I walked into my husband Marcus's office, holding our son on my hip, ready to surprise him with the news that could change our future. But before I even touched the door, I heard laughter, his and another woman's. And then I heard something worse. She was pregnant, with his child, and together, they were planning to strip me of everything I had, even using my son as leverage to force me out of my own home. I froze right there in the hallway, my heart cracking in real time, the winning ticket still crushed in my hand. And that was the moment I realized I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the only one holding the truth that could destroy him. My name is Emma Walker, and if you had met me a year ago, tired hair pulled into a messy bun, dark circles under my eyes, and a soft, permanent apology in my voice, you would have thought I was just another overworked mom trying to keep her family from falling apart. In some ways, you would have been right, but you wouldn't have known the whole truth, not yet. On a gray Thursday morning in Chicago, with the sky threatening rain and the wind whipping down the streets like it had a personal grudge, I rushed into Harbor Mart with my son Noah perched on my hip. He was only 3, warm against me, half asleep, his cheek pressed into my shoulder. I remember thinking that if someone didn't carry me the way I carried him, I'd probably collapse right there beside the display of discounted cereal boxes. I was exhausted, bone-deep exhausted. Marcus, my husband, had left early again, claiming he needed to check on the construction site. He always left early now, and he always came home later. Much later. Still, I held on to hope. That's what women like me do. We hold on long after the rope has burned our hands. The store was packed with people dodging the rain. I grabbed milk, applesauce, dish soap, nothing special. I just wanted to get home before Noah melted into a toddler tornado. When I reached the checkout line, the cashier, a young woman with freckles and an energy I envied, held up a single lottery ticket. "Last one," she said. "Want to try your luck? People having a rough morning usually win something." She said it jokingly, but her smile was kind. And God, I was desperate for a little kindness. I bought it. I shoved it into my purse. I went home and forgot about it. Until that night. Noah was asleep. The apartment was quiet. Rain tapped on the windows. I turned on the TV for background noise, and the lottery numbers flashed across the screen. I didn't scream. I didn't faint. I didn't even move. I just stared as the numbers aligned one after another exactly with the slip of paper in my shaking hand. $50 million. I pressed my palm over my mouth, afraid that if I breathed too hard, the moment would disappear. My eyes blurred with tears. I had spent years stretching grocery money, years choosing Marcus's comfort over my own needs, years pretending I wasn't drowning. And suddenly I could breathe. I picked up Noah from his little bed, held him close, and whispered, "Baby, everything's going to change." I wanted to tell Marcus first, not because he deserved it. God knows he didn't, but because after everything, I still believed the man I married existed somewhere inside the stranger he'd become. The next morning, I took Noah with me to downtown Chicago. Walker Urban Construction had a sleek office in the Loop, all glass walls and cold metal accents, the kind of space that tried too hard to look successful. As the elevator doors slid open, I heard laughter drifting from the conference room at the end of the hallway. At first, I smiled. Marcus rarely laughed anymore. Maybe the old him was making a comeback. I stepped closer. The glass walls were tinted just enough to blur the inside, but not enough to hide the shapes or the voices. Lauren's giggle came first. Then Marcus's voice, low and intimate, the tone he hadn't used with me in years. "Are you sure it's mine?" he asked teasingly. "Marcus," she whispered. "Of course it is. We made this baby together." My stomach dropped. My hand froze on Noah's back. My pulse thudded so hard, I felt it in my teeth. Suddenly, the hallway felt too bright, too loud, too open. I backed away, but the universe wasn't finished with me yet. Because then, I heard something worse. "What about Emma?" Lauren asked. Marcus snorted. "Emma? She's not going anywhere. She's too dependent, too naive. The debt scheme will work. Once she signs the papers, she'll walk out with nothing." Lauren lowered her voice. "And Noah. He's just leverage," Marcus said. "She'll fall in line as long as she thinks keeping the peace is best for him." Noah stirred in my arms, and a tiny sound escaped him, a sleepy whimper. I jumped, heart-hammering, terrified they'd hear us. But even if they had, I don't think I could have moved. I was frozen, my world rearranging itself into pieces I didn't recognize. Marcus wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just leaving. He was planning to destroy me, all while I carried his child, cooked his meals, defended his temper, and built a life around a man who didn't even see me as human. Every beat of my heart screamed, "Run, leave, disappear." But then another voice rose inside me, quiet, steady, unfamiliar, not yet. I held Noah close, kissed the top of his head, and silently walked back toward the elevator. I entered that building as the old Emma, tired, hopeful, unsure. I left it as someone else entirely. Someone who had nothing left to lose. Someone who had 50 million reasons to fight back. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you, what would you have done if you were me? Would you confront him right then? Would you keep the secret? Would you run? Or would you stay and watch? I didn't go home after leaving Marcus's office. I couldn't. My legs carried me on autopilot through the cold Chicago streets until I found myself standing at the bus terminal with Noah bundled against my chest and my heart beating so hard it felt bruised. The city noise blurred into a low hum like the world had slipped underwater. I bought 2 last-minute tickets on the Midland coach, heading north to Cedar Grove, the small Wisconsin town where my parents lived. I didn't tell Marcus. I didn't tell anyone. For the first time in years, secrecy was my armor. When the bus started moving, I pressed my forehead against the cold window and watched the Chicago skyline shrink behind me. Noah slept across my lap, tiny fists curled, mouth slightly open. The sight of him hurt in a way I wasn't prepared for. He was innocent. He trusted me, and I had almost raised him in a life built on lies. By the time we reached Cedar Grove, the air smelled like pine and distant farmland, and for a moment, I could almost breathe again. My mother, Maria, opened the door before I even knocked. She took one look at my face, just one, and pulled me into her arms without asking a single question. That night, while Noah slept between us on the guest bed, I finally told her everything. Not the sugar-coated version, not the maybe I misunderstood version. The truth. Every word felt like I was peeling off a layer of skin. When I told her about the baby Lauren was carrying, about the debt scheme, about Marcus calling his own son leverage, my mother's expression changed in a way I will never forget. Heartbreak first, then something darker, protective, steady, the kind of rage only a mother can hold without letting it spill. "Emma," she said quietly, "you are not going back there empty-handed." And I didn't. The very next morning, she took me to Lakeside Credit Union, the only bank she trusted, and helped me open a new account in her name. My name wasn't on it, because until the divorce was final, any large deposit with Emma Walker attached could end up in Marcus's discovery packet. When the Lottery Commission wired $36 million after taxes, my mother was the legal recipient. Not Marcus. Not the man who wanted to ruin me. My mother. The relief was overwhelming, but it came with a sharp, terrifying thought. Now I had something worth stealing. That night, long after my parents went to bed, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the quiet Wisconsin wind rattle against the window. The fear wasn't just of Marcus anymore. It was of discovering who I was without him. I had spent years being small around him, quiet, careful. Who was I when I didn't have to be scared? The next morning, I knew what I had to do. I packed Noah's little backpack, kissed my parents goodbye, and took the first bus back to Chicago. I needed to be close. I needed to watch Marcus and Lauren without them knowing. I needed proof. Not rumors, not suspicions. Solid, undeniable proof. I needed their own sins to bury them. And the best way to get that was to walk straight back into Marcus's world. 2 weeks later, disguised under a darker hairstyle, oversized glasses, and a mask that half the city still wore out of habit, I walked into Walker Urban Construction, dressed in cheap jeans and a plain Navy janitor's uniform. I kept my head down, my voice soft, my steps small. No one looked twice, especially not Marcus. He brushed past me 3 times that first week. His cologne hit me like a punch to the ribs, familiar enough to hurt, but foreign enough to feel like it belonged to another lifetime. Every day, I emptied trash bins, wiped desks, cleaned bathrooms, while quietly memorizing passwords on sticky notes, overhearing phone calls, and watching the fear in people's eyes when Marcus or Lauren spoke to them. That office wasn't a workplace. It was a pressure cooker, hissing with secrets. The first big crack appeared when I noticed something strange on the accounting floor. Whenever Patricia Green, the veteran head accountant, walked by Marcus's office, he shut his laptop with a level of panic completely out of character for him. Patricia had sharp eyes, the kind that had seen too much to be easily convinced or easily fooled. One evening, as she packed her things, she looked right at me straight through the disguise and said softly, "Be careful who you clean up after, sweetheart. Some messes don't want to be touched." Her voice carried weight, meaning, warning. And then she walked out. From that day, I paid closer attention. Marcus made several late-night calls. Lauren brought in envelopes she never logged. And twice, I saw Marcus transfer files labeled Weston and Sons Holdings from his desktop to a locked external drive. But the moment everything shifted happened on a Friday afternoon, when Lauren, furious about something, slammed her iced coffee onto a desk. The cup exploded, liquid splashing everywhere, including over the power strip beneath the accounting computers. Panic erupted. Shouting, running, Patricia yelling for someone to cut the breaker. And in the chaos, I saw it. Marcus's external drive. Plugged in. Unlocked. Open. I don't know how my body moved so fast, but within seconds, I was sitting at Brian's desk, fingers flying across the keyboard as I opened a folder labeled Gold Mine. And God, it was exactly that. Invoices, shell companies, hidden accounts, proof of tax fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, every sin Marcus committed, laid out like he had prepared a confession just for me. I pulled a small USB from the inside of my uniform. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped it. 30 seconds to copy. 20, 10. Footsteps in the hall. 5, 3. Complete. I yanked the USB free and slipped it down the inside of my boot, just as Marcus burst into the room, eyes wild. For one terrifying second, his gaze locked onto mine. Did he recognize me? Did he sense something was wrong? He hesitated, then brushed past me without a second thought. Because to him, I was invisible. Maybe that was my greatest weapon. Before I continue to part 3, let me ask you, if you were in my shoes holding evidence that could destroy the man who betrayed you, would you use it? Or would you be afraid of how far the truth might take you? I didn't sleep the night after I copied the goldmine file. How could I? I lay awake in my tiny sublet on the north side of Chicago, staring at the city lights trembling outside my window, feeling the USB drive in my hand like it was a live wire. With that single device, I could expose Marcus. I could end his career. I could finally break free. But I also knew this truth. If I did, his entire world would collapse, and with it, the stability of everyone who depended on him. His employees, their families, even Lauren, pregnant and foolish but still human. I wrestled with guilt so heavy it made my ribs ache. But then Noah stirred in his sleep beside me, tiny fingers curling around my arm. And suddenly, the world snapped back into focus. It wasn't about revenge. It was about protection. It was about my son growing up seeing his mother choose courage over fear. The next day, I walked into Novarise Technologies, where Daniel Brooks, the man Marcus betrayed years ago, looked at the evidence with widening eyes. "Emma," he whispered, "this isn't just fraud. This is federal." "I know," I said softly. "And I need your help. Not for me. For my son." For the first time in years, a man looked at me with respect instead of dismissal. Daniel spent the next weeks quietly building his company with my financial backing. No one knew my name was behind it. To the world, I was just another invisible woman trying to disappear inside a crowd. But invisibility is a kind of power, and I was learning to use it. While Daniel grew Novarise, I let Marcus believe I was defeated. I let him push the divorce. I let him hand me papers, asking for full control of our assets he thought were worthless. He even smirked as he handed me the pen. "Don't drag this out, Emma. It's better for Noah if you walk away clean." Walk away clean? From a man already drenched in dirt. I signed. Calm. Cool. Quiet. The signature wasn't a surrender. It was an execution date. 6 months later, everything changed. Novarise won a major city contract one Marcus had been counting on to save his sinking company. Clients left him. Suppliers sued him. His employees quit in waves. Lauren gave birth to a daughter, and within weeks, Marcus began pulling away from her the same way he once pulled away from me. Soon the whispers reached me. Marcus was broke. Marcus was panicking. Marcus couldn't understand why his world was collapsing. Then, one October morning, he showed up in the lobby of my luxury high-rise on Lake Michigan, sweaty, shaking, desperate. Somehow, he had discovered I lived there, even though the lease was under my mother's name. When he saw me walk into the lobby with Noah, he froze like he'd seen a ghost. "Emma," his voice cracked. How are you living here? Where did you get the money? I didn't answer." He stepped closer, anger rising. "You lied. You hid money from me. You cheated me out of what was mine." The building staff looked over. Residents paused. Noah hid behind my leg. Something inside me snapped not in rage, but in clarity. "You had everything I said quietly, and you threw it away." That same afternoon, he filed a lawsuit demanding half of the lottery winnings, and I let him. I wanted the truth on record. The courtroom smelled like old paper and tension. Marcus sat across from me with a slick attorney whose grin made my skin crawl. He was confident, smug, ready to humiliate me. But then my attorney opened the folder. The gold mine file, the offshore accounts, the embezzlement, the fake debt, the corporate theft, the recordings of Marcus and Lauren plotting to leave me penniless. Every secret, every lie, every crime, exposed. Marcus's lawyer went pale. Lauren burst into tears. And Marcus, his jaw locked. His eyes darted around the courtroom like a trapped animal searching for an exit that no longer existed. Then the judge asked the question that sealed his fate. "Mr. Walker, is there any explanation for these financial documents?" Marcus opened his mouth, but before a single word could escape, the courtroom doors clicked open. 3 FBI agents walked in. "Marcus Walker," one said, "you are under arrest for tax fraud, embezzlement, and financial misconduct." The agents cuffed him right there, in front of everyone. And for the first time since the day I stood outside his office, listening to him betray me, I felt my knees weaken, not from fear, but from relief so pure it nearly brought me to the floor. Justice didn't always shout. Sometimes it simply arrived and took a man by the wrists. The ending wasn't fireworks. It was quiet, human, healing. Marcus went to prison. Lauren moved out of state with her baby. Walker Urban Construction dissolved. I donated a large portion of my winnings and helped Daniel turn Novarise into a thriving, ethical company. My mother moved into a cozy condo nearby. Noah grew to know stability, peace, and a mother who would burn a whole world down just to build him a safer one. And me, I learned I didn't need a man to save me. I had saved myself. Sometimes I walk along Lake Michigan at sunset, watching Noah chase seagulls, listening to the water hit the rocks, and I whisper a thank you to the woman I used to be. She didn't survive the fire, but she built the woman who did, and that woman is finally home. Before you go, tell me something. How did this story make you feel, if you liked it? Comment 100 below. Tell me what country you're watching from. And if this story touched your heart, please share the video so more people can feel it too.